Flash shocker! Ezra Miller writing script in bid to stay on as star. A Hollywood Reporter exclusive, which I'm just stealing now. Well, the interesting thing about this is, suddenly he's writing a script when there was supposed to already be one from the two directors. And I don't know how much weight he would have to throw around to introduce his script, but then he did a smart thing. He brought in Grant Morrison to sort of be the, script doctor for his script. So that's interesting. And Grant Morrison has often said that the Flash was one of his, if not the most favorite character of his when he was young, and all the weird stories from the 60s and whatnot that the Flash had. And it had quite an impact on him. So the story here is saying that Ezra Miller is taking a stab at the script and having help with Grant Morrison to complete it. And this is apparently a last bit effort on his part to stay involved in the film. Now, he's not popular with a lot of people in the role. Primarily because, that's not Barry Allen. In fact, the Grant Gustin version of The Flash on the TV show is probably closer to Barry Allen, but even his is not quite Barry Allen. But Ezra Miller was really removed from it. Now, this is not a popular notion, but as much as I don't particularly like Ezra Miller, he comes across quite the douche in interviews and whatnot. But his performance in Justice League did not bother me. And for the context of that film, it more or less worked. The problem in it was the added on humor that the Warner wanted from Joss Whedon when he took it over to make it Marvel. Marvel it up, Josh. Do your Marvel magic, which there's no magic. And so I think that, overdid it. Especially, the jokes about brunch and all that crap. That was just stupid. But overall, like I said, with the context of how the film was, he just wasn't that much of a problem. I didn't mind him at all. In fact, I found him funny on occasion. I ended up liking all the characters in it. The weakest part was the plot with Steppenwolf, because there wasn't one. Why was he doing it? The original outline and script story that Snyder had was a more credible script about him wanting to overthrow Darkseid and all that. But anyway, they wanted it all to be one movie. And the whole problem of the DCEU was that it was slapped in and forced and rushed when Snyder was going to do a Man of Steel 2. And then, you got to do Batman versus Superman. And Batman versus Superman is supposed to do in one movie what Marvel did in 5 years. It was impossible. So it has a lot more to do with Warner Brothers' foolish 11th hour of interfering. And then the 11th hour of interfering was totally on display in the patchwork of Justice League, which sunk the film. So there you go. And that's regardless of whether or not Ezra Miller's in it, it wouldn't have mattered. So now we've got his Flash movie, which has been just spinning around for years now. It's supposed to have already come out some time ago. And several people took a crack at it. And lately it was supposed to be John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. And they come from Spider-Man Homecoming fame. And, I didn't like Spider-Man Homecoming. I liked Michael Keaton, and that was about it. It was a silly little teen, like soap opera, sitcom type plots in it. And that wasn't Peter Parker. He was okay, it seemed, in Civil War, but in his own movie, I don't know what happened, but that's just not Peter Parker. He came across as this a fame and superhero obsessed a-hole. And none of the aspects of, yes, he learned his lessons and he came around, but most of it was about being safe and all that sort of thing. But it was not the Peter Parker, the core of that personality. It shone through, and that was disappointing, considering the big hope was that now Marvel had Spider-Man and we were going to get Spider-Man, and we didn't. So am I optimistic that these guys can handle the Flash? No. No, I'm not. But the idea is that Warner Brothers wants a more lighthearted tone with these movies, and you saw it on display in Aquaman. Now, Aquaman, sometimes the humor, in my opinion, went too far with it, and sometimes outright pushes you out of the movie, which really irks me. Most notably the scene where he and Mara are walking in the desert, and they're just doing one joke after another, and they're literally playing sitcom background music. That bloom, 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 bloom. I mean, it's just like, what the hell is this? You know, fortunately, it was very short, and he got back into the adventure. And, well, the movie was successful, $1 billion. So, so I'm sure by now Warner Brothers is convinced this is the template and method which we need. Now with Shazam, it just seems appropriate that there's going to be a lot of humor in it. And it seems to work by what I'm seeing with those trailers. So that should work out okay with it. I can expect some amount of humor in The Flash, but based on what brought Ezra Miller into the role, which would have been Zack Snyder's take on it, he apparently wants a darker take on the material. And I'm sure right now Warner Brothers is scared of the word dark, except for their DC Universe shows. I mean, Doom Patrol and Titans, good Lord, those were darker than anything Zack Snyder did. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, for their movies, they're a little nervous about that, and they seem to want things to be lighter and some comedy brought in. But the best thing going for Ezra Miller's move here is, of course, Grant Morrison. And who knows, you probably could come up with a good enough story. I don't know about Miller's abilities, but if he wants to base it on a Grant Morrison story, that's probably a good sign. Hopefully they'll change that god-awful costume he's in, but we'll have to wait and see if it even happens. So it's saying the script could be submitted to the studio as early as next week. So apparently he's been working on this for quite some time now, and we're just now hearing about it. And but apparently an insider tells Hollywood Reporter that the Miller's holding deal on Flash expires in May. So whatever script he's come up with is going to have to be pleasing to Warner's to give him a shot at this. And with Grant Morrison backing him up, he's got a strong case here. But I'm thinking they're pretty well set in stone on wanting the lighthearted view. So there's going to have to be some humor in there to sell this to them, I imagine. I don't think it could be as dark as Flashpoint or something like that, which apparently was the original approach to this movie. But I think they probably bailed on that idea, which is too bad because that would have been a cool story. But they no longer, all they got is Aquaman and Wonder Woman at this point. I don't know if they have a Superman, or they certainly don't have a Batman anymore, at least not yet. So, you know, so Miller's going to take a chance on it, and he seems to legitimately be interested in this character. He probably wants to see it completed as what he probably thought he was hired on to do. And, but in the meantime, you know, he'll be fine with Warner's. He's got Fantastic Beasts to look forward to, which has been delayed. So that gives it a chance, I believe. If this goes through, then they can shoot the movie with him around November. So they could have The Flash going through. But it's another one of these signs, I think, about how Warner's is still a little nervous about how badly burned they got with the original rollout of the DCEU, and caught them off guard in a lot of ways. But it was there meddling and interfering. And you can see some of that with this news about Wonder Woman. Yes, apparently they're saying the Wonder Woman 1984 movie is not actually a sequel. Yes, it is. I mean, the story is just, the producer here starts talking about it in the sense that, well, it's a different era and it's moving on. Yeah, it wouldn't take directly from World War I because it's in 1984, so it's so many years later. But then the guy goes on to describe it, and well, you know, it's a different era, different time frame, but you'll get a sense of what Diana/Wonder Woman had been doing in the intervening years. Okay, that's a sequel. I suppose at some point someone else could come in and want to tell about, well, what was she doing in World War II or something like that. But here, the intervening years well, then you're going to get details about the same character. So she's the same Wonder Woman that you saw in that other movie. But I guess a lot of this goes to that you didn't have to see the original movie to enjoy this one and that sort of thing. I don't really buy that because Steve Trevor is clearly in the movie. How does that happen? Is it time travel? Is it some magic that resurrects him? Whatever. I don't know. But you kind of need the other movie to appreciate the emotional investments between the characters here. I mean, obviously it says, well, this is her great love and now he's back and she thought he was gone and all that. But, yeah, it is a sequel. There's nothing really here, I don't think. But it's that idea that I'm kind of wondering if this is like, no, this is different. We're not the DCEU anymore. You know? And keep pushing standalone. The movies appear from what I'm seeing, certainly from Aquaman and from the trailers of Shazam. And this is Shazam's first appearance, and yet he's mentioning Batman and Superman and all that in the trailer and whatnot. That shared universe still exists. It's just not their core focus. And it's that interesting thing where they say, we're not doing what Marvel did, but that is what Marvel did. Those movies initially, Iron Man, the Hulk, and Captain America, and Thor, they were their own movies. They were connected through Easter eggs and, of course, the teasers at the end. Which even if you took those teasers away, you still had a connection that they lived in the same universe. So it's kind of weird. Their original approach was not the Marvel way. Their approach was to do it ass backwards. And you saw how that turned out. So it's all very odd, but if these movies continue to make money and be successful, and especially at the level of Aquaman, and on the cheap, apparently Shazam is very cheap, saying they had a production budget of $80 million. That's actually pretty cool from what it looks like. So I don't know, but, so, going forward with that, and then they can make bank and go, and then eventually they can go for that sweet crossover, money for a big movie that can pay off. And they just are drooling at what Marvel did with Infinity War and so on. So, people going around thinking it's all dead and there's never going to be any more, shared universe for the DC characters. Yeah, I'm not really buying that. It's just a matter of what they want to do and where they're seeing. They've got this monster hit with Aquaman, so that's given them a pause to look at this and reassess it. Because if Aquaman had failed, I think Shazam and Wonder Woman, and they're done. And let's do a Batman movie, but just a Batman. So anyway, there you go. The Wonder Woman story, not so much. The Flash story, probably the more interesting one, in that this is kind of little tidbits here about Ezra Miller is on the clock here about whether or not he will remain the Flash. And it's kind of 50-50 here. And I think teaming up with Grant Morrison is probably what saved him for it, if anything else. But well, we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? Yes, we will. Thank you for watching and listening. Say, while you're here, why not like and subscribe? And for those of you who have subscribed, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I do. And while you're here, hey, why not check out that link description below? That'll take you to my mini stores that have plenty of goodies for you.